All right. Prepping. Here we go. We are live. We got our 1 o'clock show here on Ward Wrestling Live. We're growing. I just want, first of all, let people out there know, man, I think I appreciate you more than you appreciate me. Thank you for everybody coming on here and doing their show and speaking their part. We have another great longtime wrestler, longtime wrestling coach in our country, coming out of Pennsylvania, moved to Tallahassee, brought his club here, and he is the head coach at Grappling House Wrestling up in Tallahassee. He's a two-time state placer in PA at Bell Vernon High School. He was a college wrestler at D2, Mercyhurst. He coached a couple different high schools at the Pennsylvania level, Fort LaBeouf and Bell Vernon. If I screwed that up, my bad.
LaBeouf.
Yeah. And
those guys will get on you about it.
Yeah, LaBeouf. And right now he's got 10 of his wrestlers competing at the D1, D2 level. That's not too shabby. He's here with us. One thing I want to say is thank you so much, Coach Weslager. I appreciate your support. Thank you for coming on. And how are you?
I'm doing well. Hey, thanks for having me. And I wanted to say before we get started here, thanks a lot for doing this. This is an important medium, an important way to get our message out as the wrestling community and kind of get to meet each other. I feel like I've gotten to know a lot of wrestlers and wrestling coaches in Florida through watching this that I otherwise probably would not have. That's kind of helped ingrain me in the whole culture here. So I really appreciate what you're doing and keep up the good work, man.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And like I said earlier, the support has been amazing. And I really do appreciate everybody out there. I really am just chasing a purpose. And my purpose is to have wrestling heard. I think it does really good for kids and youth and boys and girls. And I think we also need to look at kids that have some underlying issues and get them into wrestling rooms, because I think that can really delete some depression, delete some ADHD, delete some issues and some bullying. And I really think wrestling coaches and wrestling kids are just different level human beings. So I started this. I was never a wrestler, and here I be, right? So
that's along the lines of what you were saying. Is I kind of look at wrestling as, the wins and losses are great and getting college scholarships and all that stuff, but it's about kind of who it makes you turn into. All the ups and downs and trials and tribulations that we kind of face along the way, is that journey is more important to me than, getting your hand raised sometimes. So I'm completely with you philosophically.
So it's awesome. Well, before we get into all these questions that I have for you, I can see behind your beautiful bald head there, you've got your camp going. And go ahead, man. Shout out your camp. Talk about it. Talk about what your plans are and how people can get there.
Yeah, thanks. So our camp is going to be June 22nd through 26th in Tallahassee. Originally, we were supposed to be the beginning of June, and COVID and the state of the world today kind of pushed that back. But I've got 3 of my former guys coming down from Bell Vernon High School in Pennsylvania. One of them is the 165 starter for Lock Haven Division I. One of them is the West Virginia 174 starter, Division I, and then Logan is the 133 UNC Pembroke Division II starter. They're going to come down, and we're just going to put on a nice little 5-day camp. Try to give the Tallahassee and Northern Florida area a nice opportunity to work with some really high-level clinicians and guys that they're still young. They're where a lot of these kids strive to be, and so they're very high quality individuals, not just on the mat, but off the mat as well. And so it's kind of it's a small camp. We maxed it out at 40 for facility space, and just because we want that kind of individual instruction for these kids. And I think it's going to be a really cool opportunity. As you can see, I don't know which way I'm pointing here, there's 6 spots left. We originally had it filled up, and so we had a couple back out because of the new information regarding COVID and things like that. But some spots are starting to fill back up, and I'm pretty confident that we'll get to the 40 here in the next couple weeks. So Really, really looking forward to it. If anybody wants to register, the link is right up top. There's a flyer, there's registration form on there, waiver, everything you need to just show up on day one and practice.
Awesome. And that's amazing. Camps are starting to get open. I'm glad to see another one that's going to be available for the kids. Do you need any more clinicians? Do we need to reach out to any coaches? Anybody listening to this? Or is
We
three
actually,
enough?
so we have 3, and then we have myself, and then I've actually, I've made a lot of connections throughout the Tallahassee area with the high school coaches who are obviously sending some kids over and plan to come for a day or 2 here and there. I know Coach Marshka was talking about from Childs was talking about coming over for a day or so. Coach Crowder may stop by, you know, throughout the
You
Tallahassee
got the
area. We'll have some,
FSU. You got the FSU Club guys up there as well. I'm sure they
we
come
do.
out.
We do. Yep. I think they, we just started a Saturday only practice because none of the schools can open yet. So we're doing Saturday, middle school and high school only coming over. And I know the FSU guys are talking about trying to come over and help out with that as well. So that'll be cool.
Cool. So you got plenty. You don't need help. We're good. Awesome.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing is I'm not turning down help. If you got anybody that you think wants to come by and, you know, I'm looking at it even from my perspective is if you got anybody that wants to come learn, these college guys, you know it as well as I do, they always come back with some tips and tricks that you've never seen before that you go, wow, why didn't I think of that? And so I'm, you know, while I'm going to be coaching and helping out with this, I really expect to leave here a better wrestler and coach. So if you got anybody that fits the bill that wants to come be a part of that, by all means, send them up. Appreciate
Cool.
that.
Yeah. Any coaches out there, any wrestlers that want to go get some rolling ground and teach some young youth, hit him up. You see how to get a hold of him. Plus, he's all over social media. You'll see him there. Well, good. I'm glad to see him in their camp. Now, you are mainly a club owner nowadays.
Correct.
So one big question that everybody's asking is, you know, what does club look like now? What does club wrestling look like now? What you know, you have 100 kids show up for a rumble. What does that
Yep.
rumble look like now? What does that practice look like now?
Yep. So, well, at the beginning, about I think the end of May, the governor put out the order that, you know, kids in youth camps could start back up. We waited about a week before we did anything. At that point, we released very strict guidelines as far as we were doing only solo drills for the first 2 weeks. All that kind of easing our way back into it. And as of last Monday, we have finally officially started. We're allowed partner drills, we're allowed full contact, stuff like that. Numbers truly have been kind of mixed. We're probably about half capacity right now. You know, there's still people out there that are a little bit concerned, and rightfully so, perhaps, that, you know, things with COVID could, you know, respike and things like that. So a lot of people are cautiously optimistic, and just kind of taking their time back. But, you know, like I said, we're about half capacity, and they're slowly starting to come back into it. And, you know, my hopes are by the end of the summer, we're back to completely normal. But you never know what the world's going to throw at you, and you just kind of adapt as it comes, much like wrestling.
Sure, it makes sense. Now, excuse me, I've heard like everything from small groups, and those groups have to stay with each other, and those groups drill with each other, as opposed to where everybody's along a wall and they're split it up in weights, and then you guys do full goes, and you guys look for different kids each time. Has it been a little bit like that? Small groups, stay with the same partner,
Correct.
clean after every go, wipe the mats after every go. Has it been a little more in depth?
Oh yeah, we've got some pretty strict guidelines as far as parents aren't allowed in the facility yet. They come, they drop their child off, they sign a waiver letting us know that their child has no symptoms, hasn't been around anybody as far as they know that has had symptoms, etc. They take a temperature check with a temporal scanner thermometer. If they're over 99.3, they cannot practice. They then hand sanitize, they walk around, they feet sanitize, they walk on the mat, and they're told that that is home base for the remainder of the practice. Everybody's to bring their own drinks. Locker rooms aren't open yet. Showers aren't open yet. we're very strict with it just because we want to make sure that everybody's as safe as possible. But yeah, we have a lot of guidelines, and that's just kind of where we're at right now. And hopefully as this goes on, we'll be able to ease those off. But as you said too, everybody's with the same partner the whole time. When we go live, we're not doing any switching. Who you pick at the beginning or who the coach puts you with is who you're with. And we're just trying to make the best of the situation that we're dealing with right now.
Well, at least some wrestling is happening. So
Yep.
talk a little bit about, I think we kind of did that, right? But transition out of how you're practicing to what your club is, what your club culture is, what you do during the off season. If I'm a kid in your neck of the woods, Florida, Georgia line there, and I'm looking for a club to get better during the off season, why do I pick Grappling House?
I kind of touched on it earlier, but as a parent in this area, so first off, let me start at the beginning. Is wrestling in Northern Florida, as far as, or when I say Northern Florida, I mean specifically Panhandle, Tallahassee area. A lot of times, so where I come from in Pennsylvania, it's you start when you're 6 years old, your grandpap wrestled or someone wrestled, and you kind of just work your way up through the program. Here, especially in Tallahassee, there aren't very many opportunities for kids until they hit the high school level. There's a few local middle schools that do things, and I know a lot of the different, Coach Crowder at Lincoln does stuff with the youth, and you've got Coach Jackson over at Childs runs a little youth program for those guys. But for the most part, you don't really have a lot of opportunities. So we're kind of, in Pennsylvania, I was taking kids that already had 2, 3, 4 years experience and kind of molding them a little bit and, breaking down techniques and stuff. And here with Grappling House, we're taking kids that are day one wrestlers that, parents are kind of looking at it like a, just like a karate or taekwondo school, wrestling or jujitsu. They kind of all go hand in hand. So they're looking at like that as an after school activity. So I'm taking kids from day one and I'm teaching them how to shoot. I'm teaching them how to sprawl. I'm teaching them, level change. We're teaching them good positioning, stuff like that, which actually kind of has a benefit though, because I don't have to break any bad habits. Not that a lot of coaches present bad habits, but you get a lot of kids that just generally they learn something and then they decide they want to do it their way. From the beginning, I can kind of take the little ball of Play-Doh and mold it how I see fit, so we can teach them the proper everything the whole way up through, which, there's a benefit to that for sure. But it is definitely different.
Yeah, no, and that's great. And that talks a little bit about, the whole PA wrestling and Florida wrestling thing. I think you touched on a little bit where over there you were taking kids that have been wrestling and it's more of a deep state. So now they've got
Yep.
2 or 3 years and now you're preparing them for the next level, which is high school, where in Florida, you're just kind of starting them off and getting them ready for a high school program.
Correct. At least in our area of Florida, I know, as you get more towards the middle and southern parts of the state, that culture is very much like it is up in, Pennsylvania and Ohio, where they're starting them young and stuff like that. And, that's really where I see this program going. Is we're trying to give an opportunity to all these little local schools here to get their kids started with our youth club as early as possible. By the time they get to high school, they've got everything they need to then be molded, to then say, okay, well, your single's great, but let's work on this finish versus the one you've been doing, or that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah, I think it took my kid 2 seasons to sprawl. Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool. So one thing that's pretty cool is you talked a little bit about off the air is you got a push-up contest that goes on around the area that you put on for all the kids. You've got a little backing from the local Chick-fil-A that's giving out some little milkshakes to them if they hit their goals. Talk a little bit about why you do that and what's the purpose and how it's been evolving.
Yeah, so I've always looked at coaching a lot of, you try to incentivize the kids however you can. And a lot of times if you can incentivize them with something fun or something they like, a lot of times it pushes them to do whatever task you're asking them to do just a little bit better. So, we do this push-up contest, and it came from, I watched a video of a current Oklahoma State wrestler, Dayton Fix, who's really high level. I'm sure most of you listen and know who he is. And he told a little story about when he was 9 years old, he overheard two offensive linemen talking about some college football program that they were tasked with doing 100,000 push-ups in a year. And he looked at his dad and said, hey, I can do that. And so his dad, him, and grandpa all sat down, broke it down to, 300 push-ups a day, whatever it was, and stuck to the goal for a year and did 100,000 push-ups. So I thought it was a cool story, but I thought 100,000 for your typical 9-year-old who doesn't have aspirations of, going to the Olympics and wrestling at that age. I thought that was going to be a little much. So we broke it down to 10,000, which comes to, I think it's 27 push-ups a day for a year. If you can do that, we incentivize you. If you hit your monthly goal of 800 and whatnot, we give you a milkshake. We have a little push-up contest in the room to see who can do the most in one clip. And then at the end of the year, anyone that hits 10,000, we haven't decided exactly what we're going to do, perhaps a cookout. The Sky Zone, the trampoline park, was thrown around as an option there. We have one of those in Urban Air, so one of those could be, but it's unbelievable to me how the kids have taken it. So I kind of expected it to be some kids do it, some kids don't. I would say 75% of our wrestlers have stuck with it. One kid hit just last month alone 10,700 push-ups in 1 month when that was the year goal.
Wow. Well,
Yep.
he's going to win the contest probably.
Oh, he's probably going to win the contest, but we've got a lot that have been doing averaging 5,000 to 6,000. I jumped in just to see how hard it would be as an out of shape wrestling coach. And I did 3,000 last month, and I felt like my arms were going to fall off daily. So the fact that these kids are doing 10,000 in a month is remarkable. So it's worked out to be a pretty cool contest. Like you mentioned, we reached out to Chick-fil-A, who's graciously hooked us up with all these little free milkshake cards for the kids that hit their numbers. And, the kids know if they do good, they're rewarded, not just with that physical reward, but also the fact that they're getting stronger, they're getting mentally tougher, they're getting a lot of these attributes that we as wrestlers know we need to have. And it's just kind of a neat little way to get that across to them. Goal setting, we did a whole little hour-long talk on goal setting the one day as well. Anyhow.
You can keep going.
No, that's all. We did a nice little hour-long talk on goal setting and kind of discussed how, you got to have a reason for each goal and you have to have a why for each goal. And we kind of broke it down in relation to the push-up contest. And then we broke it down further to school, to life, to your relationships and things like that. And, wrestling, like I touched on, it's kind of a medium for a greater goal. We want to be good people. We want to do the right thing by people. We want to just be the best we can be. And kind of wrestling teaches us that. The wins and losses are cool, but what we can learn along the way, I think, is the real thing.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Yeah. I didn't mean to cut you off there, so I apologize.
No, you're fine.
Sometimes when I get a delay or whatever. All right, well, before we get into the 10 questions, and I really enjoyed these 10 questions because, being a Pennsylvania guy, there's a lot to grab from up there. But, I know before we get in there, talk a little bit about what made you leave, kind of, why'd you stop coaching high school and decide to transition into focus only on club wrestling?
Yeah, so in Pennsylvania, off the air, we kind of spoke about doing both. In Pennsylvania, I did do both. I coached at Bell Vernon High School, and then I also had a club called Odyssey Wrestling. And it was a lot of work doing both. Plus, I have a full-time job in digital marketing. So all three of those things, plus, relationships and life itself. And so as all that was going on, my wife, girlfriend at the time, but wife now, got a nice job opportunity here in Tallahassee. So we closed up the club. I had already resigned from coaching up there a year prior, came down, and I was actually very, I don't want to say burn out, but it kind of was that way a little bit with wrestling, where I was just kind of like ready for a little break. Took about a year and a half where I did nothing as far as wrestling. I do jujitsu myself. And so I was kind of focusing on that and focusing on family and things like that. And at my wife's prodding, she said, like, I think you need to get back into wrestling. You seem to be getting a little bored at home here. We need to get you back in there. And so we started a club down here. And it just it started out with, one or two kids for a month or two and slowly snowballed. And right now we have 2 locations with about 40 total kids, and we're planning on continuing to grow.
Awesome, man. Well, good for you. Congratulations. And,
Thank you.
way to pursue your passion. And that's awesome,
Thanks.
You ready?
I am. Let's hear it.
But first of all, is there anything else you want to talk about? Is there anything else you want to get out there? Is there anything I missed that was important to you?
No, man, I think you pretty much covered it. Like I said, yeah, we pretty much covered it all, and I appreciate it.
All right, cool.
Let's
I
do
always
these 10
want to ask.
questions.
Yeah, I always want to ask because I never want someone to get off the show and go, man, shit, I should have said that, which I'm sure happens.
No, I have some notes. That's why I kind of stumbled up there. I was making sure I didn't miss anything myself. So we're all good.
Cool. All right. Tasty cakes or key lime pies?
Tasty cakes. If you would have said something else, it might have been something else, but I don't do key lime. So
All right.
tasty cakes, take the cake.
Philly cheese or lobster Reuben?
Oh, Philly cheese is so good. I've only had one from actual Philadelphia because we're on the other side of the state, but yeah, they're very delicious.
Florida stone crabs or Baltimore blue crabs?
Florida stone crabs, 100%. I could eat those.
So over on your side of Pennsylvania, these 2 desserts are very popular. Which one for you, the Klondike bar or the Clark bar?
Klondike bar for sure. And it's funny, my daughter's got a whole thing of Klondike bars in the freezer there that I'm not allowed to touch. She got a 6-pack and no one else but her is allowed to touch them because she knows they'll be gone like that.
They're so good. All right, dumplings or pierogies?
Pierogies, hands down pierogies. I wish I knew how to make them and I wish I had the recipe. My wife will probably give them a go after she hears this interview and hears that I want them, but that's something I've been missing from Pittsburgh for sure.
All right. So movie popcorn or that Pittsburgh popcorn?
Probably movie popcorn with a whole bunch of butter. Put all the salt and all the butter on there and I'm down.
So have you been to Chicago, by the way, just on a side note?
Yes and no. I was born in Chicago, but I've not actually been back to visit. We were there for like 2 years of my life.
They have Chicago popcorn, which is like so it looks like Pittsburgh has like it's like a sweet popcorn, and then on Chicago they have like this mix where they do like the cheddar cheese and the butter, and the caramel. I'm sorry, cheddar cheese and caramel. So it's really good. But
if I ever make it up there, I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
Along with some good deep dish pizza, from what I hear.
Yeah, Steelers or Penguins?
Put me on the spot here. That's a tough one. Probably the Steelers. I prefer watching football, but I love hockey just as much. So either or, you can't go wrong with either or.
Hard. I didn't throw the Pirates in there. They haven't done anything in a long time. So
man, that's a sore subject for all of us diehards.
yeah.
We have some ownership issues up there in Pittsburgh at the Pirates, and we need to get somebody to come in and save us. But anyhow,
The city of brotherly love or the Steel City?
the Steel City, for sure.
All right, here's a big one. Bradshaw or Big Ben?
I wasn't around. Bradshaw was, during the golden years, so I don't really have many memories of him. So I've got to go with Big Ben. But Bradshaw, from what my dad and grandfather and all that tell me, he was pretty dang amazing. So I'm going to go with Big Ben, but it could be Bradshaw just as easily.
All right, so my last one, I researched and I found 2 sandwiches that are apparently the most important sandwiches to Pittsburgh. I don't know, I could be wrong, but they said the Pittsburgh kielbasa is huge on the streets of Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
And they said the Pramonti Brothers sandwich is.
I was going to say, if if you didn't say Permantes, I was going to go third choice Permantes, 100% Permantes. They do any type of meat you want on a nice like sourdough type bread, and then they throw fresh cut French fries and coleslaw on top and sandwich it all together. It is heaven. If you're ever up there, try one.
The pictures looked amazing, and there was so much others. It's amazing the difference of the foods from each side of the state, but there's similar stuff. Pierogies is just Pennsylvania. You know what I mean? Like everywhere you go is pierogies or water ice or whatever, right? But but you got that Philly cheesesteak, you got the kielbasas, you got those Philly pretzels, you've got the what do they call them? They call them like chip fries or whatever you guys do in Pittsburgh with the cheese or whatever. I forget how they said it. I was looking at it.
Cheese fries? Yeah, I don't know.
You got the tasty cakes, you got the Klondikes.
Oh yeah.
So it was fun. Being fat and hungry right now, I'm liking it.
That's how I feel.
Food. I need to go up there, man. That's awesome.
If you ever get up there, they've got some good stuff up there. I definitely miss it at times, but I'm really into the whole Florida seafood thing. The soft shell crab I could eat all day, every day. They've got a little place here. Yeah, they've got a little place here. I live in Wakulla, which is about a half hour from Tallahassee, and they've got a little seafood truck here where the husband is a professional fisherman, brings in fresh catches every day, and then they serve it out of a seafood truck. And you can get soft shell crab that is to die for. If anybody out there is ever in Wakulla, go to Hutton's Seafood. There's a little advertisement for them that I'm sure.
Shout out to Hutton. All right, man. Well, hey, good luck with everything. Good luck with your camp, your club.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll talk again. And I appreciate you and what you're doing for wrestling. And thanks for coming on my show.
Yeah, hey, likewise, man. Keep up the hard work. I appreciate all you're doing and all the hours you're putting into this and getting our message out there a little bit, one person at a time. So we collectively, we all thank you as well.
All right, buddy. You have a great day.
Have a good one, man. Thanks.